I didn't even know we were talking for that long.
So we are back, guys. We kept talking so much that we actually ran out of our track of time, and I forgot that it was the end of part 1, and I should have announced that. But we were just, I was finishing my point on Mac, and I think that he's worth the money in today's NFL. $65 million contract is basically an $100 million contract in the NBA, and I think that in today's football, he's worth that kind of money, and the Raiders need to fork it out. John Gruden is probably more of a traditional coach. He hasn't coached in about 10 years, so that might play a little bit of a role in it. But I think he needs to learn in today's football, and he needs to be experienced and say, okay, you're worth the money you're playing. And he's going to provide a big enough contribution, so the Raiders should definitely sign him.
I was just thinking to myself, like, who else do the Raiders really have on like D-line and linebackers? Like we have like Mario Edwards and like that one guy. I can't remember his name. He's from Plaster High School.
Vanderdoe.
Vanderdoe. Yeah, I mean they're not very good. Like I don't. Yeah, I literally
their secondary
know no one
is
else
toast.
that we have, and it's scary. It's like, okay, I mean if you're not going to re-sign them, get ready to go back to the 4-12 and 3-12 or 3-13 days. Like
right.
Travis Allen and stuff.
And if you saw in the news earlier this week, Navarro Bowman, there's rumors that he and the Packers are coming close to making a deal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know, but still best of luck to you guys. I definitely still, even though I'm a Niner fan, I still want to see you guys succeed for sure. So preseason's starting up, and I'm definitely ready for some football again, for sure. So... all right, so getting on to the next issue here, talking about something political. This has to do with something that's come out over the past couple weeks. It's actually been transpiring for about the last month. But this is a story specifically to one city in California when it comes to this issue. On the plastic straw ban, California City okays jail time for defying the plastic straw ban. Sippers beware. A California coastal city has become the latest municipality to ban straws, enacting what is potentially the strictest plastic prohibition in the country. Santa Barbara earlier this month passed the ordinance authorizing hefty fines and even a possible jail sentence for violators who dole out plastic straws at restaurants, bars, and other food establishments. According to the ordinance, violators on their first offense will be given a written warning notice, but the second time a purveyor of plastic straws defies the ban is when the heavy hand of the law could clamp down. In this case, the ordinance cites penalties from the city's municipal code for a fine not exceeding $1,000, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months. 6 months, not days, 6 months. In comparison, Seattle, which in the beginning of July became the first major city in the U.S. to ban plastic straws, only fines businesses $250 per offense. So, I think I already know what you're going to say on this, but overall, what is your thought on them doing this? What kind of impact do you think it's going to have? What do you kind of precedent do you think it's going to set for the rest of the state or the country? Do you think others will follow suit? What are your thoughts on this in general?
I think it's fucking terrible that everybody seems to not even care about this straw ban, and it's like. It's like people are like, oh, it's just straws because I saw someone say that on Twitter. But it's like, why aren't you giving a fuck? I mean, it's like they start banning straws and like then they start banning whatever else that's not environmentally friendly. And it's like, I mean, it's a fucking straw. Like it's not a weapon or anything. And it's like, why would you ban a straw if you don't think it's environmentally friendly? You don't need to use government force and like imprison people for like drinking out of a cup with a device or like, the straw. It's just so ridiculous. It's like you can start like voluntary movements that are not government related. You don't need to use force against people, but the fact that you want to use like literal force against people for using a straw, it's like, fuck off.
And it's a non-violent crime.
Crazy. Exactly. And it's like,
it's not even a crime.
I guarantee you these people want marijuana legalized, and there's people that are against it, but they don't want straws to be legalized because it's not a part of their narrative. They don't care. It's like, you're not hurting anyone by drinking out of a straw. It's like such a ridiculous conversation to have. It's crazy.
So there's a couple of things I could go on this. So one angle to take it is the angle that says, okay, so you're going to possibly I understand this is not going to happen in every case, but in some cases, you're going to possibly put people in prison for up to 6 months for either giving a plastic straw to a person or using a plastic straw. In the meantime, in California, this is the same state that gave 6 months, the same amount of time, to a rapist in Brock Turner at Stanford. Which is a violent crime, obviously. It is the same state who basically gave a slap on the wrist to a person who literally murdered an innocent woman in San Francisco who was an illegal immigrant who was deported 6 times, who came back, and he murdered somebody. And he basically got a slap on the wrist. This is the same state. Same situation. I understand that that's a city government versus the state government, but the state government could easily intervene and do something about that. On this specifically with plastic straws, I understand for people who are environmentalists and stuff like that, who say, okay, this can get into our oceans, this can be a disaster, that can be really bad on our sea life. I get that. However, this is the same people who probably were going to Starbucks the next day when they changed their lids and they don't have their plastic straws anymore, even though plastic covers the kinds of straws they have now, and their lids actually have more plastic on them than the previous ones that there were. Let's talk about plastic straws. Activists and news media claim that Americans used 500 million plastic straws a day. Now that sounds awful and that sounds like a ton. However, the source of this figure turns out to be a survey conducted by a 9-year-old. Similarly, 2 Australian scientists estimate that there are up to 8.3 billion plastic straws scattered on global coastlines. That actually sounds really bad as well until you account for the numbers, yet even if all these straws were suddenly washed into the sea, they account for about 0.03% of the 8 million metric tons of plastic estimated to enter the oceans in a given year. Now, you might ask at that point, okay, so what kind of plastic gets into the oceans then? So, what I will say before I intro this, I eat fish. I don't eat it as much as other meat. I have been trying to cut back on red meat and other things, but I do eat red meat and white meat more than fish or certain seafoods. That being said, a recent survey by scientists affiliated with Ocean Cleanup, a group developing technologies to reduce ocean plastic, offers one answer. Using surface samples and aerial surveys, the group determined that at least 46% of the plastic in the garbage patch by weight comes from a single product, fishing nets. Other fishing gear makes up a good chunk of the rest. Now, when I say this, what I mean is I don't want to hurt people who are fishermen, who have their own jobs, who have their own lifestyles and way to try to create their own livelihood. There's probably a different way they could go about it, but my whole thing is, why aren't activists or environmentalists focusing on that specifically and pointing to that and saying, okay, let's maybe change this up. We don't want to ruin these people's lives, but we do want to, make it to where we're smarter when it comes to how we catch fish. There's probably going to be some better vegetarians and vegans will probably say, I don't even want that to happen. But I'm saying in terms of keeping these people's livelihood, you can change it, but we don't even get that conversation because they're so fixated on plastic straws versus fishing nets, which is where almost 50% of that plastic that goes into our oceans that does get into our sea life comes from. And it's really, really hypocritical for environmentalists to call themselves environmentalists when they're not even focusing at something that is more of important of an issue that doesn't take that much research.
Exactly, and it's like, and the thing is that they want to ban straws, and I always hear people say they want to ban things, but how do you go among banning things? Like, so you think no one's gonna make a plastic straw, or no one's gonna have one ever again? It's like, what amount of government force do you want to have to regulate fucking straws? It's like, how do you even do that? Oh. Plastic, let's just remind people again. Plastic straws that we've all used, and it's like, would you ever think you would come to a time where things as innocent and stupid as that would get like banned from a city.
It gets
Like,
sent
so
to the black
stupid.
market, and then like you're like, yo, can I have those the bendy ones with the stripes on
Yeah,
it and stuff?
give me the good stuff, man. Give me that really bendy straw. So stupid.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think the way we can leave this issue on a positive note is to say, look, at least there's some people out there like Bloomberg, which is where I get this piece from, and other people that actually are covering what actually has more to do with the plastic in our oceans. But I wish people would actually just prioritize what's important over stuff that is just a non-issue. I that's what it comes down
Exactly.
to. And
It's like
it's ridiculous.
Sorry, go ahead. It's like we're 20 trillion in debt. I think 21 trillion in
21.
debt.
Yep.
Yeah, and you care about plastic straws? Give me a break. It's like there's so many other like what innocent people getting bombed in the Middle East. Like remember when liberals cared about that? Is that not an issue anymore? Now you're so far of the Al Gore spectrum of being an environmentalist that you want to ban freaking straws. Like, go fuck off. Seriously.
I need to do like a drum roll. I need some like musical beat every time somebody brings up the debt on the show so I can go ding, ding, ding. The U.S. debt clock, everybody. We are currently at $21.302 trillion in debt.
Yep.
So I need to do that every week because I think that that'd be an interesting update to just keep people filled in because obviously that's not something that will get covered that much in the media. Well, it's still something that's
who
obviously
cares,
important.
right? It's irrelevant.
Right.
No one cares.
Yeah, no, we're nearly $65,000 per debt per person, $175,000 per debt per taxpayer in this country, and it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, our debt can go up to $99 trillion. I don't think anybody will bat an eye.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad for sure.
And it's like they could attack Trump on the national debt, but no one seems to care. It's all about the Mueller probes in Russia, and it's like that's all you see on MSNBC and CNN and Fox News. It's like, dude, attack him on the economy and the national debt and like what he does with spending and stuff like that. It's like libertarian. Like I feel like a lot of mainstream media could get a lot of libertarians to watch if they would actually attack Trump on issues that actually mattered.
Well, Trump derangement syndrome is real, and while Trump obviously is at least in my book, a C- president at best at this point, I think the whole thing, which happened, and we could talk about this too, that happened less than a month ago with the whole summer when Trump met Putin and they had that whole interview and everything. It was a complete non-story, exactly. and you know. It gets back to the whole thing of who do you want to trust? Do you want to trust the same intelligence agencies that the same media is covering about with the TSA's Quiet Skies program and critiquing them about? They will still point to those same intelligence agencies and say, oh yeah, no, we blindly trust them when it comes to an investigation, even though these are the same people that led us into Iraq on a complete lie. These are the same people that have innocently spied on Americans without warrants. They'll cover things like the Quiet Skies program because they know a lot of people don't like the TSA, but at the end of the day, people or our mainstream media and civilians in general, no offense, they're not going to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to actually being consistent on that issue of not trusting our intelligence agencies, and they're going to get back to just doing the same thing, which is trusting our intelligence agencies. And that's what it's come down to with the whole Russia thing. But I mean, in terms of our debt, Trump hasn't been perfect, obviously. He's been far from. I mean, look what he's done with farmers. He's completely screwed them out, and now he's going out there and providing millions and hundreds of millions in subsidies when it was him that screwed it up in the first place. And then you have him that's creating the trade war with China, and it's hurting jobs and businesses in this country. And we owe China trillions of dollars in debt ourselves. So I mean, seriously, honestly, I think our economy right now, it's already decent, to be fair to him. It would actually probably be the best economy we've had in 30 plus years if Trump didn't touch anything. If he literally just sat back and said, all right, free market, do your course, you do your thing, we'd probably have the best economy in at least 3 decades.
Yeah, and it's like he could be such a good Republican free market president like Calvin Coolidge, but no, he doesn't want to. He could be like B potential. And he could get easy re-election, but he doesn't
Well, that's
he
the
doesn't
thing.
let the free market do its thing.
If he let the media do their thing with the way they've screwed themselves out, he's going to easily get reelected, in my opinion. But because the Democrats aren't going to throw a candidate that's worthy against him, but at the same time, he's screwing himself out by doing these stupid things as well at times. That's the end of part 2, guys. We'll be right back with part 3 in 1 second.